The blizzard screams across the Montana wilderness like something alive and furious. Through walls of white, a shape moves, slow, unsteady, desperate. The lioness drags herself through snow that reaches her chest, for tiny cubs clinging to her back, their mewling cries lost in the wind. Her legs tremble with each step. Blood stains the snow behind her, a crimson trail disappearing into the storm. She collapses at the wooden door of a cabin, her body curled around her babies, her golden eyes fixing on the warm light glowing through the frosted window. One massive paw reaches forward, scratches, once, twice, then stillness. Inside, Ranger James Morrison hears something that makes his blood run cold, a sound he hasn't heard in 20 years. The sound of a ghost returning. James Morrison has lived alone in the Montana wilderness for 15 years. His cabin sits at the edge of the Glacier National Wildlife Reserve, a weathered structure of timber and stone that has withstood decades of brutal winters. At 63, his face bears the deep lines of a man who has seen both the beauty and cruelty of nature. His hands, scarred from years of handling injured wildlife, move with practiced efficiency as he prepares his evening meal. The wood stove crackles, casting dancing shadows across walls lined with photographs. Most show animals, bears, elk, wolves. But one frame sits alone on the mantel, a young lioness with distinctive markings, her amber eyes bright with trust, and a much younger James beside her, both caught in a moment of pure connection. Outside, the blizzard intensifies. The thermometer mounted by the window reads -18 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind rattles the shutters. James has weathered hundreds of storms like this, but something about tonight feels different. The forest has gone silent beneath the howling wind, a silence that speaks of something wrong. He's stirring his coffee when he hears it. A scratch. Deliberate. Weak. James freezes, every instinct honed by years in the wilderness suddenly alert. Animals don't approach human dwellings during blizzards unless something is desperately wrong. He sets down his mug, moves to the door, and peers through the small window. At first, he sees only snow and darkness. Then movement, a golden shape against the white. His breath catches. A lioness. But not just any lioness. Even through the ice-crusted glass, even after 20 years, he recognizes her. No, he whispers. It can't be. His hands shake as he throws open the door. The cold hits him like a physical blow, stealing his breath. The lioness lies crumpled on his doorstep, her body curled in a protective circle. For tiny cubs huddle beneath her, their eyes barely open, their bodies trembling violently. Frost clings to their whiskers. The mother's breathing comes in shallow, labored gasps that send small clouds of vapor into the frigid air. James drops to his knees, snow soaking through his jeans. His veterinary training kicks, and even as his mind reels, he checks her pulse. Weak, irregular. Her body temperature is dangerously low. Blood seeps from a wound on her hindquarters, already freezing in the sub-zero temperature. The cubs mewl weakly, barely conscious. But it's when he sees her left shoulder that James's vision blurs with tears. A scar. Distinctive. 3 parallel lines running from shoulder to foreleg, exactly where a trap's teeth had bitten down 2 decades ago, where he had operated for 6 hours in an emergency field surgery, where he had saved a young lioness's life before releasing her back into a sanctuary 500 miles south. Sahara. His voice breaks. Is it really you? The lioness's eye opens slightly. Even through the glaze of hypothermia and exhaustion, recognition flickers. Her massive head lifts perhaps an inch, and she makes a sound, soft, rumbling, utterly trusting. The same sound she'd made 20 years ago when, after weeks of recovery, she'd finally let him approach without fear. She's found him. Somehow, impossibly, across 500 miles of wilderness, through a blizzard that should have killed her, she's brought her babies to the one human she trusts. James's training overrides his shock. He has minutes, not hours. The cubs are barely alive. Sahara is dying. The temperature is still dropping. I've got you, he says, his voice steady despite the tears freezing on his cheeks. I've got all of you. He scoops up the first cub, a tiny male, his fur white with frost. The baby barely responds. James tucks him inside his coat against his chest, feeling the frightening coldness of the small body. He grabs the second cub, then the third. The fourth, smallest of the litter, lies completely still. But Sahara is too large, too heavy for him to carry alone. He needs equipment. He needs help. He needs time they don't have. Stay with me, he tells her, his hand on her massive head. You didn't come all this way to give up now. He carries the cubs inside, his mind racing through options. His satellite phone, the emergency sled, the warming blankets, the medical supplies. But even as he lays the cubs near the wood stove, wrapping them in everything warm he can find, he knows the terrible truth. He can save the cubs, or he can save Sahara. In this cold, with these injuries, with his limited equipment, he cannot save them all. James Morrison stands in his cabin, for dying cubs at his feet, their mother freezing on his doorstep, and a blizzard raging outside that will prevent any help from arriving until morning. The choice before him is impossible. But the Lioness who traveled 500 miles through a killing storm to find him didn't come here to make things easy. She came because she remembered. She came because 20 years ago, a man she had every reason to fear had shown her mercy instead. Now, as the clock begins its countdown and the temperature continues to drop, James must find a way to repay that trust, or lose them all to the merciless cold of a Montana winter night. The cabin becomes a triage center. James works with the precision of a surgeon and the desperation of a man who understands that every second counts. The four cubs lie on a wool blanket near the wood stove, their tiny bodies so cold they barely register warmth. He rubs each one vigorously but carefully. Too rough, and he could damage their fragile systems. Too gentle, and he won't stimulate circulation. Their breathing is shallow, their heart rates dangerously slow. The smallest cub, a female with a white patch on her chest, isn't breathing at all. James tilts back her head, clears her airway, and begins rescue breathing, tiny puffs of air into her miniature lungs. 1, 2, 3. He pauses, checks for response. Nothing. He continues. His own heart pounds so hard he can hear it in his ears. Outside, wind slams against the cabin walls. Come on. Come on. On the seventh breath, the cub convulses. A weak cough. Her tiny ribcage expands. She's breathing. That's it, James whispers. Fight. But even as relief floods through him, guilt tears at his chest. Sahara is still outside. Dying. Alone. He's made his choice. Save the cubs first, then move the mother. But the knowledge that she's suffering out there in the cold makes his hands shake. He forces himself to focus. Sahara brought her babies here because she wanted them to survive. He has to honor that. The cubs' temperatures are slowly rising, but they're not out of danger. Hypothermia can cause cardiac arrest even after rewarming begins. He needs to monitor each one continuously. He wraps them in heated towels, checks their pulses, watches for signs of frostbite on their tiny ears and paw pads. 10 minutes pass. The cubs are stable enough. James grabs emergency blankets, the portable veterinary stretcher from his supply shed, and runs back outside. The cold knifes through his layers instantly. The blizzard has intensified. He can barely see 3 feet ahead. Snow has already begun to cover Sahara's body, a white shroud claiming her inch by inch. He falls to his knees beside her, brushing away the snow. Her breathing is even weaker now. Her eyes are closed. When he touches her neck to check her pulse, her skin is ice cold. No, you don't get to quit. His voice is fierce, commanding. You walked 500 miles. You survived. God knows what to get here. Stay with me. He wraps the emergency blankets around her, thermal sheeting designed for large mammals. They'll help, but they're not enough. He needs to get her inside, but she weighs nearly 300 pounds, and the hypothermia has made her body dead weight. The stretcher is designed for this, a reinforced canvas sling with aluminum poles. James positions it beside her, then begins the agonizing process of rolling her massive body onto it. Every movement must be careful. The wound on her hindquarter is worse than he first thought. A deep laceration, probably from barbed wire, infected and festering. She must have torn it days ago and kept traveling anyway, driven by a mother's desperate determination. It takes him 20 minutes to secure her on the stretcher. His hands are numb. His face burns with cold. But finally, he has her positioned. Now comes the hard part. The cabin door is 30 feet away. 30 feet that might as well be 30 miles. He's 63 years old. Sahara weighs close to 300 pounds. The snow is knee-deep. The temperature is still dropping. James grabs the stretcher handles, plants his feet, and pulls. The stretcher doesn't move. He adjusts his grip, lowers his center of gravity, and tries again. This time, it slides forward 6 inches. His back screams in protest. His shoulders feel like they're tearing. But 6 inches is progress. He pulls again, and again, and again. The world narrows to this. The burn in his muscles, the rasp of his breathing, the whisper of canvas on snow. 6 inches. A foot. 2 feet. The cabin door seems impossibly far away. His vision begins to blur. His legs tremble. Halfway there, he collapses. James lands hard in the snow, gasping, his heart hammering dangerously. The cold seeps through his clothes. His body screams at him to rest, just for a moment. But he knows what a moment means in this temperature. A moment becomes minutes. Minutes become forever. He thinks of the cubs inside, warm but still fragile. He thinks of Sahara's journey, 500 miles through hostile territory, injured, protecting 4 newborns, driven by a memory of kindness from 2 decades ago. If she can do that, he can manage 30 feet. James forces himself to his knees, then to his feet. He grabs the handles, pulls. The cabin door is 20 feet away. 15. 10. His legs give out again, and this time he falls forward, landing hard against the stretcher. Sahara's body is beneath him, still and cold. For a terrifying moment, he can't feel her breathing. Then, a slight rise and fall of her ribcage. Still alive. Still fighting. Almost there, he tells her, his voice raw. Almost home. With the last reserves of his strength, James drags the stretcher the final 10 feet. The cabin door is open, warm air spilling out into the frigid night. He pulls her across the threshold, into the warmth, and collapses beside her. For a full minute, he can't move. Can't do anything but breathe and feel his heart gradually slow from its dangerous racing. But there's no time for rest. Inside the cabin, James begins the delicate process of treating a critically hypothermic lioness. He's done this before, not with lions, but with bears, wolves, even a moose once. The principles are the same, but the stakes have never been higher. He can't warm her too quickly. Rapid rewarming can cause cardiac arrest as cold blood from the extremities floods back to the heart. He layers warming blankets over her, sets up space heaters at a safe distance, monitors her temperature with a digital thermometer designed for large animals. Her core temperature is 89 degrees Fahrenheit. A human would be in severe danger. For a lioness, it's nearly fatal. While she warms, James examines the wound on her hindquarter. The infection is serious, red streaks radiating from the laceration, tissue swollen and hot despite the overall hypothermia. He'll need to clean it, debride the infected tissue, administer antibiotics. But first, she needs to be stable enough to survive the procedure. He checks on the cubs. All 4 are breathing steadily now, their tiny bodies warm and pink. They've begun to move, instinct driving them to seek their mother even in their exhausted state. The smallest one, the female he'd resuscitated, mewls softly. "Your mama's here," James tells them. "She's fighting. You just keep doing the same." By midnight, Sahara's temperature has reached 94 degrees. Still dangerously low, but no longer immediately life-threatening. Her breathing has strengthened. James allows himself a moment of hope. Then her body convulses. The seizure comes without warning, violent, her massive limbs thrashing. James throws himself across her to keep her from injuring herself on the nearby furniture. The cubs scatter, crying in alarm. The seizure lasts 20 seconds that feel like an eternity. When it stops, Sahara lies still. Too still. James checks her pulse. Faint but present. Her breathing continues, but it's changed, shallower, more labored. The seizure has weakened her further. He knows what's happening. The hypothermia has caused metabolic chaos in her system. Her electrolytes are critically imbalanced. Without proper veterinary care, for fluids, cardiac monitoring, controlled rewarming, she might not survive the night. His satellite phone sits on the desk. He could call for help. The wildlife rescue helicopter could be here by dawn. But dawn is 6 hours away. Sahara doesn't have 6 hours. James makes a decision that violates every protocol, every guideline of his training. He's going to perform emergency field surgery on a critically hypothermic lioness in his cabin, with veterinary supplies designed for smaller animals, no backup, and no safety net. If he fails, she dies. If he succeeds, she might still die. But if he does nothing, she definitely dies. And 20 years ago, she'd trusted him to save her life once before. James Morrison rolls up his sleeves, scrubs his hands in boiled water, and begins laying out his supplies. The cubs watch from their blanket nest, their golden eyes reflecting the firelight. Outside, the blizzard continues to rage. Inside, a man prepares to attempt the impossible. The wound on Sahara's hindquarter is infected and deep. He'll need to clean it, remove dead tissue, close it with sutures, and hope the antibiotics can fight off the sepsis that's already setting in. All while her body is still recovering from near-fatal hypothermia. He injects local anesthetic around the wound site, lioness or not. She deserves whatever comfort he can give. He waits for it to take effect, then begins the painstaking work of cleaning the infected tissue. The smell is terrible, rot and infection. He irrigates the wound with sterile saline, carefully cuts away the dead tissue, probes gently for any foreign material. His hands are steady despite his exhaustion. This is what he was trained for. This is why he spent 30 years as a wildlife veterinarian before retiring to this isolated cabin. Time loses meaning. There is only the work: clean, debride, irrigate, assess. Clean again. Suture, layer by layer, closing the wound. His back aches. His eyes burn. But his hands never waver. By 2 in the morning, the wound is closed. He's administered broad-spectrum antibiotics, pain medication, and subcutaneous fluids. It's not ideal. She needs 4 fluids, but he doesn't have the equipment for a lioness-sized intravenous line. What he's given her will have to be enough. Sahara's temperature has reached 98 degrees. Her breathing is stronger. The immediate crisis has passed. But she's not out of danger yet. James collapses in his chair, every muscle trembling with exhaustion. The cubs have ventured closer to their mother, pressing against her belly, seeking the warmth and comfort of her presence. The smallest female climbs onto Sahara's massive paw and curls up there, purring softly. Outside, the blizzard begins to ease. The wind's howl diminishes to a whisper. Through the window, James can see the first hints of pre-dawn gray touching the eastern sky. They've survived the night. But morning will bring new challenges. Sahara needs food, proper medical care, and time to recover. The cubs need their mother's milk, if she's strong enough to nurse. And James needs answers. How did Sahara travel 500 miles from the sanctuary? How did she know where to find him? What drove her into a killing blizzard with 4 newborn cubs? And most importantly, what happens now? As dawn breaks over the Montana wilderness, James Morrison sits beside a sleeping lioness he saved 20 years ago, her 4 cubs nestled against her, and wonders what impossible twist of fate has brought them all back together in his isolated cabin. What he doesn't know yet is that Sahara's journey here wasn't random chance or simple instinct. She came with a purpose. And in the days ahead, that purpose will reveal itself in ways that will change everything James thought he knew about the bonds between human and animal, about memory and gratitude, and about the extraordinary lengths a mother will go to protect what she loves. The morning brings crystalline clarity to the Montana wilderness. The blizzard has passed, leaving behind a landscape transformed. Every surface buried under 3 feet of fresh snow, the world rendered in shades of white and blue. The sun rises in a sky so clear it hurts to look at, and James Morrison stands at his cabin window, watching light spill across the frozen expanse, wondering how the hell he's going to make this work. Behind him, Sahara sleeps. Her breathing is steady now, regular. Her temperature has stabilized at 100.5 degrees, normal for a lioness. The cubs nurse hungrily, having discovered their mother's warmth and milk after the long, terrifying night. Their tiny paws knead against her belly as they feed, their purring like small motors. James drinks his coffee, his third cup since dawn, and considers his options. They're not good. The nearest veterinary hospital is 60 miles away in Kalispell. The roads are impassable, buried under snow that won't be cleared for at least 2 days. His satellite phone works, but calling for help means bringing authorities, questions, regulations. Sahara is technically an exotic animal. There will be permits, inspections, potential removal to a facility. And there's something else. Something he noticed during the night while treating her wound. Sahara's collar is gone. She'd been fitted with a tracking collar when released from the sanctuary 20 years ago, standard procedure for monitoring relocated animals. That collar should still be around her neck, or at least, its remnants should be. GPS collars are designed to last a decade or more. But her neck is bare except for matted fur and a faint line of scar tissue where the collar once sat. Someone removed it, which means her journey here wasn't escape or wandering. It was deliberate. Someone helped her. Someone who knew about James, about their connection, about what happened 2 decades ago. But who? And why? These thoughts churn through James's mind as he watches Sahara with her cubs. She's awake now, her amber eyes tracking his movements with that distinctive intelligence he remembers. When he approaches, she doesn't tense or growl. She simply watches, calm and trusting. "You've got a story to tell," James says softly. "Don't you, girl?" As if in answer, the largest cub, a male with a dark mane already beginning to show, detaches from nursing and wobbles toward James on unsteady legs. The cub is perhaps 3 weeks old, his eyes bright, with curiosity unclouded by fear. He sits directly on James's boot and looks up at him. Sahara makes a sound, not a warning, but something else. A chuff, the kind of greeting lions use with trusted companions. The cub bats at James's shoelace. "Oh, you're going to be trouble," James murmurs, scooping up the tiny lion. The cub fits in his palms, warm and solid and utterly trusting. When James brings him close, the cub touches his wet nose to James's beard and purrs. Something inside James's chest cracks open, a wall he built 15 years ago when he left veterinary practice, when the loss of too many animals became too heavy to bear. He'd come to this cabin to escape the pain of caring. But here, holding this cub, feeling its heartbeat against his palm, he remembers why he became a veterinarian in the first place. Connection. Trust. The profound responsibility of being trusted with a life. "Your mama knew what she was doing," he tells the cub. "Coming here." She remembered. But Sahara's recovery presents immediate challenges. She needs proper nutrition, at least 20 pounds of raw meat daily to produce enough milk for 4 growing cubs. James has deer meat in his freezer, but not nearly enough. She needs continued medication for the wound infection. She needs monitoring for any complications from the hypothermia. And the cubs need socialization, veterinary checks, and space to grow. James spends the morning making the cabin work as a temporary sanctuary. He clears his living room, setting up a large enclosed area where Sahara can rest and the cubs can explore safely. He uses his emergency radio to contact the local hunting outfitter, a friend who owes him favors, and arranges for a delivery of venison and elk meat. He doesn't explain why he suddenly needs 200 pounds of raw game meat. Joe doesn't ask. By afternoon, the system is working. Sahara eats ravenously, tearing into the venison with the desperate hunger of a nursing mother who's been starving. The cubs venture out from their mother's side, exploring their new environment with growing confidence. They wrestle with each other, attack James's shoelaces, and collapse into purring sleep piles. James documents everything, taking notes as he did in his veterinary practice decades ago. He names the cubs, something he hasn't done with an animal in 15 years. The largest male becomes Thor for his bold courage. The smallest female, the one he resuscitated, becomes Hope. The other 2, both females, become Grace and Luna. As the sun begins to set on their first full day together, James sits on the floor with Thor asleep in his lap, Grace chewing on his sleeve, and Sahara watching him with those knowing amber eyes. "We need to figure this out," he tells her. "You can't stay here forever. These little ones need more space than I can give them. They need other lions, proper socialization. And you." He pauses, noticing how Sahara shifts to keep weight off her injured leg. "You need proper veterinary care." Sahara tilts her head, listening. For a moment, James could swear she understands every word. That's when his satellite phone rings. James carefully extracts himself from sleeping cubs and answers. The voice on the other end makes his heart stop. "James Morrison? This is Dr. Elena Vasquez from the Sierra Wildlife Sanctuary. I'm calling about a lioness who may have come to your location." His mind races. The sanctuary, 500 miles south, where Sahara was released 20 years ago. "How did you?" he begins. "Mr. Morrison, I need to explain something. Sahara didn't escape. We sent her to you." Silence. Outside, the Montana winter holds its breath. "You sent her." James's voice is flat, dangerous. "You sent a lioness with 4 newborn cubs into a blizzard. 500 miles. You put her life at risk, put those babies at risk. Please, let me explain." Dr. Vasquez's voice cracks with emotion. Sahara was dying. She had advanced cancer. "We had maybe a month," the specialist said. But she wouldn't eat, wouldn't rest. She kept trying to break out of her enclosure. Every night, heading north. Always north. Toward Montana. Toward you. James sinks into his chair. "Cancer. We ran every test. The tumors were inoperable. We could keep her comfortable, but she was suffering. And her cubs." Dr. Vasquez pauses. "She gave birth 3 weeks ago. We were going to take the cubs, hand-raise them. It's standard protocol when a mother is terminal. But," James prompts, already knowing there's more. "But she wouldn't let us near them. She became aggressive, something she'd never been before. It was like she had a mission, a purpose. She needed to take her baby somewhere. We couldn't understand it until Dr. Chun found her old files. The story about you saving her 20 years ago. The weeks she spent recovering at your veterinary practice before her release. The bond you formed." James closes his eyes, remembering. A young lioness, terrified and in pain, her leg nearly destroyed by an illegal trap. 6 hours of surgery. Weeks of rehabilitation. The gradual building of trust. The day she first took food from his hand. The moment she rested her head on his knee and fell asleep, finally secure. She remembered, he whispers. More than that, Dr. Vasquez says. She remembered you saved her once. And somehow, she knew you could save her cubs. The pieces fall into place. The removed collar. The deliberate journey. The timing, arriving at his cabin just as the blizzard made any return impossible. You helped her escape, James says. A long pause. I'm going to lose my license for this. But yes, we gave her supplies, removed her collar, and we let her go. We knew she'd head north, toward you. We tracked her with drones for the first 3 days, made sure she was okay. Then we lost her in Wyoming. When the blizzard hit, we thought. Her voice breaks. We thought we'd killed her. That we'd made a terrible mistake. You did, James says harshly. Then, softer. But she made it. She's here. She's alive. He hears crying on the other end of the line. Relief, raw and overwhelming. The cubs? Dr. Vasquez asks. All 4. Healthy. Nursing. Thank God. Thank God. James looks at Sahara, who has lifted her head and is watching him. Even now, even after everything, there's no resentment in her eyes. Only that same calm trust. The cancer, he says. Tell me about the cancer. Dr. Vasquez takes a shaky breath. Lymphatic. Aggressive. It's in her lymph nodes, her organs. She has weeks, maybe a month. We can't cure it. We can only keep her comfortable. Chemotherapy. Wouldn't work. Would only make her suffer. The kindest thing. She trails off. The kindest thing would be euthanasia. A peaceful end. But Sahara didn't travel 500 miles for a peaceful end. She traveled to secure a future for her cubs. To place them with someone she trusted to raise them right. To keep them safe. To give them the life she can't. She brought them to me. James says slowly, understanding crystallizing. Not for her sake. For theirs. Yes. We think she knew. Somehow, she knew she was dying, and she wanted her cubs with you. James watches Hope climb onto Sahara's back, tiny claws digging into thick fur. Sahara's tail flicks gently, letting the cub play. A mother, giving her children every moment she has left. Mr. Morrison, Dr. Vasquez continues. Officially, I'm calling to arrange transport for the Lioness and cubs back to our facility. But unofficially, another pause. Those cubs bonded with you overnight. Sahara chose you. If you're willing, if you think you can, maybe they should stay with you. Maybe that's what she wanted all along. It's impossible. It's illegal without proper permits. It's everything James left behind when he retired to this cabin. I'll need supplies, he hears himself saying. Proper enclosure materials. Food. Veterinary support. Someone to handle the legal paperwork. Already arranged. We'll have everything delivered within 3 days. The permits are being processed as a medical emergency placement. You'll be officially designated as a rehabilitation specialist. They talk for another 20 minutes, discussing logistics, timelines, medical protocols. When James finally hangs up, night has fallen outside. The cabin is warm, filled with the soft sounds of sleeping cubs and their mother's steady breathing. James walks to Sahara, kneels beside her massive head. She looks at him, and he sees it clearly now. The exhaustion, the pain she's hiding, the shadows of the illness claiming her from within. But he also sees peace. Purpose fulfilled. Mission accomplished. You did it, he tells her softly. You got them here safely. You can rest now. Sahara makes that chuffing sound again, then does something she hasn't done in 20 years. She leans forward and touches her nose gently to James's forehead, a lion's greeting, a gesture of deepest trust and affection. In that moment, James understands the full weight of what she's given him. Not just the responsibility of raising 4 lion cubs, but the gift of purpose, the gift of connection, the reminder that compassion creates bonds that transcend species, that stretch across decades, that can drive a dying mother to walk 500 miles through a blizzard to place her most precious treasures into trusted hands. I've got them, he promises her. However long you have left, you'll watch them grow. And when you're gone, I'll make sure they remember you. I'll make sure they know what you did for them. Thor wakes and staggers over, climbing onto Sahara's paw to sleep. Grace and Luna follow, curling up against their mother's belly. Hope, the smallest, nestles under Sahara's chin. A family complete. James retrieves his camera, dusty from years of disuse, and begins to document their story. Not for himself, for the cubs, so that years from now, they'll see the images of their mother, strong and present and loving, before the cancer took her. So they'll understand the sacrifice she made, the journey she undertook, the trust she placed in a human who once showed her mercy. That night, James doesn't sleep. He sits watch, keeping vigil over this impossible family that fate has delivered to his door. Outside, the Montana stars burn cold and bright. Inside, warmth and breathing in life. But James knows what's coming. He's seen terminal cancer too many times in his career. He recognizes the signs. Sahara is living on borrowed time, her body's resources diverted entirely to producing milk for her cubs. She's burning out like a candle, giving everything she has left to ensure her baby's survival. She has weeks, maybe less. The question that haunts James as dawn approaches isn't whether she'll die. It's whether she'll live long enough to see her cubs strong and thriving. Whether she'll know, before the end, that her impossible journey succeeded. He makes a silent vow, there in the quiet darkness. She will know. He'll make damn sure of it. 3 weeks pass in a blur of round-the-clock care, unexpected joy, and the looming shadow of inevitable loss. The supplies arrive as promised, everything James needs to create a proper rehabilitation facility. With help from local contractors who ask no questions, he converts his barn into a spacious enclosure with heating, climbing structures, and secure fencing. The cubs thrive, growing at an astonishing rate. Thor develops a mane that promises future magnificence. Grace becomes the clever one, figuring out latches and doors. Luna shows a gentle disposition, always caring for her smaller sister. And Hope, little Hope, who almost died that first night, becomes fearless, leading her siblings in elaborate games of chase and pounce. Sahara watches it all. James documents her decline in his veterinary journal, the clinical observations a way to process the grief. She's eating less, moving more carefully. The wound on her hindquarter has healed, but new complications arise, swelling in her lymph nodes, episodes of labored breathing, moments where pain breaks through the medication. But she doesn't quit. Every morning, she grooms her cubs with meticulous care. She teaches them to stalk by dragging toys and encouraging their pouncing. She corrects them with gentle swats when they get too rough. She's a mother, fully present, fighting to give her children every lesson, every moment, every memory they'll need. Dr. Vasquez calls weekly, monitoring Sahara's condition remotely. She's lasting longer than we predicted, she says during one call. It's like she won't let go until she knows they're ready. James knows she's right. Sahara is holding on through sheer force of will, her body deteriorating, but her spirit absolutely fierce. She's not dying yet because she hasn't finished her work. But on a morning in late March, when the snow has begun to melt and the first hints of spring touch the Montana air, everything changes. James finds Sahara collapsed in the barn enclosure, her breathing shallow and rapid. The cubs cluster around her, mewing in distress. When he checks her vitals, his stomach drops. Her temperature is elevated, her heart rate erratic. The lymph nodes in her neck are grotesquely swollen. Her amber eyes, usually so bright and aware, are glazed with pain. The cancer has accelerated. The end is here. No, James whispers, his hands shaking as he strokes her massive head. Not yet. They need more time. You need more time. But Sahara's body has different plans. She's given everything she has. There's nothing left. James calls Dr. Vasquez with trembling fingers. She answers immediately, hears the strain in his voice, and knows. How long? She asks gently. Hours. Maybe a day if we're lucky. His voice cracks. Elena, they're not ready. The cubs are only 8 weeks old. They need her. They have you, Dr. Vasquez says. That's why she brought them to you. It's not enough. I'm not. He stops, overcome. James, listen to me. She chose you because you're exactly enough. She knew what she was doing. Trust her choice. After he hangs up, James sits beside Sahara, his hand resting on her side, feeling each labored breath. The cubs sense something is wrong. They're quieter than usual, pressing close to their mother, their small bodies trembling. Thor, the brave one, climbs onto Sahara's shoulder and lies across her neck, a position of protection, of comfort. Grace and Luna curl against her belly. Hope, smallest and fiercest, plants herself directly in front of Sahara's face, as if sheer determination can keep her mother present. James watches this, his vision blurring with tears. He's seen death countless times in his career. Peaceful passings, emergency losses, the full spectrum of endings. But this feels different. This is personal in ways that cut deeper than professional detachment can shield. He thinks about everything that led to this moment. The trap that caught a young lioness 20 years ago. His decision to spend 6 hours in surgery saving her instead of taking the easier path of euthanasia. The bond they formed during her recovery. The bittersweet joy of releasing her, healthy and whole, back into the wild. He thought that was the end of their story. But Sahara remembered. Through 2 decades, through 500 miles, through terminal illness and blizzards and impossible odds, she remembered the man who showed her mercy. And when she needed to secure her cub's future, she came back. You honored me, James tells her softly. More than you'll ever know. You trusted me with the most precious things in your world. Sahara's eye opened slightly. Even through the pain medication, even through the fog of dying, there's recognition. Connection. Her palm moves, just an inch, but deliberate. It touches James's knee. Rest there. A gesture of trust, of gratitude, of goodbye. I won't let you down, James promises, his voice fierce despite the tears. I'll raise them right. I'll teach them to be strong and gentle and brave, just like their mother. They'll know your story. They'll know what you did for them. The day passes in slow agony. James administers pain medication to keep Sahara comfortable, but there's nothing more he can do. The cancer has spread too far, too fast. Her organs are failing. Her breathing becomes more labored with each passing hour. But she fights. God, she fights. Every time James thinks she's slipping away, she rallies. Her eyes focus on her cubs. She grooms them one more time, her rough tongue rasping over their fur. She makes soft, rumbling sounds, reassurance, comfort, love condensed into vibration. As evening approaches, James makes a decision. He carries each cub, one at a time, to Sahara's side for a final moment. He holds Thor against his mother's face, letting the cub nuzzle into her neck. He does the same with Grace, with Luna, with Hope. Remember her, he tells each cub. Remember her love. Remember her strength. The cubs seem to understand on some instinctual level that this is important, that this moment matters. They're unusually still, their usual playfulness suspended in the weight of something larger than themselves. As the sun sets, painting the Montana sky in shades of gold and crimson, Sahara's breathing changes. It becomes slower, deeper. The pauses between breaths stretch longer. James positions himself so his hand rests on her heart. The cubs are arranged around their mother, Thor at her head, Grace and Luna at her sides, Hope pressed against her chest. They've stopped crying. They simply remain present, offering the comfort of their nearness. You can rest now, James whispers. You did it. You got them here safely. You taught them everything they needed to know. You loved them so fiercely that you walked through hell to give them a future. You're the bravest mother I've ever known. Sahara's eye opens one final time. She looks at James, and in that gaze is everything: recognition, trust, peace. Her paw flexes against his knee one last time. Then she takes a breath, releases it slowly, and doesn't take another. James feels her heart beneath his palm beat once, twice, 3 times, then stillness. Sahara is gone. For a long moment, James can't move, can't breathe. The finality of death is always shocking, even when expected. The sudden absence where presence existed seconds before. The cubs know. Hope lets out a cry. High, keening, heartbreaking. The others join in, a chorus of loss and confusion. They nuzzle their mother's still form, trying to wake her, unable to understand why she doesn't respond. James gathers them to him, all 4 cubs in his arms, their small bodies shaking with distress. He holds them as they cry, offering the only comfort he can, his presence, his warmth, his steady heartbeat beneath their paws. I've got you, he tells them, his own tears falling into their fur. I've got you. Your mama made sure of that. That night is the longest of James's life. He stays with Sahara's body, the cubs eventually falling into exhausted sleep in his lap. He sits there in the barn, surrounded by hay and starlight filtering through the cracks in the roof, and grieves. He grieves for the magnificent creature who fought so hard and so bravely. He grieves for the cubs who will grow up without their mother's guidance. He grieves for the weight of responsibility now fully on his shoulders. But beneath the grief, there's something else. Gratitude, honor, the profound sense that he's been given something sacred, the trust of a dying mother, the care of 4 lives that represent Sahara's final gift to the world. As dawn breaks on the first day without Sahara, James makes arrangements. He calls Dr. Vasquez, who promises to send a team to collect Sahara's body for burial at the sanctuary. He contacts a wildlife sculptor who agrees to create a memorial, a bronze statue of Sahara with her cubs, capturing the fierce love that defined her final months. But most importantly, he makes a promise to himself and to Sahara's memory. These cubs will thrive. They'll grow strong and healthy. And when they're old enough, when they're ready, he'll tell them their mother's story. He'll make sure they understand the extraordinary journey she undertook, the impossible odds she overcame, the depth of love that drove her to give everything for their survival. Over the next 3 days, James and the cubs navigate their new reality. The cubs search for Sahara repeatedly, crying for her, confused by her absence. James provides comfort, food, warmth, all the physical needs. But he can't replace their mother. Or so he thinks. On the 4th morning after Sahara's death, something remarkable happens. James is in the barn enclosure with the cubs, trying to interest them in play. They've been lethargic since their mother died, eating reluctantly, lacking their usual energy. He's beginning to worry about failure to thrive, a condition where young animals, overcome by grief, simply give up. Thor lies in the corner, uncharacteristically still. Grace and Luna huddle together, unresponsive. Hope sits alone, staring at the spot where Sahara died. James feels helpless, desperate. He's provided everything they need physically, but emotionally, they're shutting down. Then Hope does something unexpected. She walks over to James, climbs into his lap, something she's never done before, and presses her head under his chin. Her small body trembles. She makes a sound, half purr, half cry. James freezes, afraid to move, afraid to break whatever is happening. Then Hope does it again, pushes her head more firmly against him, demanding response. Understanding floods through James. She's not just seeking comfort. She's claiming him, choosing him as her new protector, her new source of security. He wraps his arms around her, holds her close. "I'm here," he whispers. "I'm not going anywhere." Hope purrs, truly purrs, the first time since Sahara's death. The sound is small but unmistakable. Thor lifts his head, watching. Then, slowly, he stands and walks over. He bumps his head against James's shoulder. The lion greeting, the gesture of trust. Grace and Luna follow. Within minutes, all 4 cubs are pressed against James, purring, seeking his touch, accepting him as their new anchor. It's the breakthrough he's been praying for. "Okay," James tells them, his voice thick with emotion. "Okay, we're a family now. Your mama knew this would happen. She knew you'd accept me. That's why she brought you here." From that moment, everything changes. The cubs begin to eat with enthusiasm. Their energy returns. They play with renewed vigor, their natural curiosity and joy reasserting itself. But they stay close to James in ways that wild cubs wouldn't. They follow him everywhere. They sleep piled on and around him. They cry if he's out of sight for too long. They've bonded to him completely, viewing him as their surrogate parent. Dr. Vasquez calls that evening, and James describes the breakthrough. She's quiet for a long moment. "You understand what this means?" she finally says. "They can't be released into the wild now. They're too bonded to humans. To you specifically. James has already considered this. I know. You'll need to keep them. Build a permanent sanctuary. Dedicate years of your life to their care." "I know," James repeats. "James, are you sure? This is a massive commitment. Your life won't be your own anymore." He looks at the 4 cubs playing in the hay, Thor pouncing on a toy, Grace investigating a bucket, Luna grooming Hope with meticulous care. They're alive, thriving, happy, because Sahara trusted him, because she walked 500 miles through a blizzard to place them in his care. "I'm sure," he says. "This is what she wanted. This is what I promised her. I'm all in." Spring unfolds across Montana with breathtaking beauty. The snow melts, revealing green grass and wildflowers. The forest comes alive with birdsong and rustling wildlife. And at a remote cabin at the edge of the Glacier National Wildlife Reserve, 4 lion cubs grow at an astonishing rate. By May, Thor weighs 70 pounds, his mane thick and dark. Grace has become the problem solver, capable of opening any latch or gate James installs. Luna's gentle nature makes her the peacekeeper, breaking up fights between her siblings. And Hope, tiny Hope who almost died that first night, has lived up to her name, becoming the bravest of the group, the first to explore new territories, the leader in their elaborate games. James has transformed his property into a proper sanctuary. With donations from wildlife organizations and Sahara's story going viral online, funding poured in. He built a massive outdoor enclosure with pools, climbing structures, caves, and natural elements. The cubs have space to run, to play, to develop their muscles and instincts. But every evening, they return to James. They pile around him, purring, demanding attention, their massive paws already capable of accidental harm, but always gentle with him. He reads to them. Ridiculous, perhaps, but the sound of his voice soothes them. He grooms them, removing burrs and checking for injuries. He feeds them by hand, maintaining the trust bond. He's become a lion father. The sanctuary officially opens to small, controlled tours in June. People come from across the country to see the cubs, to hear Sahara's story, to witness the extraordinary bond between human and lions. James tells the story carefully, emphasizing Sahara's courage, her maternal devotion, her trust. The bronze memorial arrives in July, a stunning sculpture of Sahara with her 4 cubs, captured in a moment of peaceful contentment. They install it at the sanctuary entrance, with a plaque that reads, "Sahara, a mother's love knows no distance. She walked 500 miles through impossible odds to secure her cubs' future. She taught us that trust transcends species, that memory spans decades, and that the greatest gift we can give is to honor those who trust us with their most precious treasures." On the day of the unveiling, Dr. Vasquez makes the journey from the sanctuary to attend. She's the first person besides James to meet the now adolescent cubs. They're cautious at first, but when Sahara's scent, carefully preserved on a blanket, is presented, they become agitated, excited, searching. They remember, Dr. Vasquez says, tears streaming down her face. They remember her. James has saved videos from those final weeks. Sahara grooming her cubs, teaching them, loving them. He plays these videos regularly, ensuring the cubs maintain a connection to their mother. He doesn't know if they truly understand, but their reaction suggests recognition, memory, connection to something important they've lost. As summer deepens, the cubs continue to thrive. But James notices something remarkable. They've developed unique relationships with him that mirror what each would have had with their mother. Thor seeks James for rough play and adventure, testing his strength and courage. Grace comes to him with problems to solve, trusting his intelligence. Luna seeks quiet companionship, content to simply be near him. And Hope. Hope demands affection constantly, climbing on him, grooming his hair, sleeping with her head on his chest. They've adapted. They've accepted their reality. But they haven't forgotten. On a quiet evening in August, as sunset paints the Montana sky in impossible colors, James sits in the enclosure with all 4 lions sprawled around him. They're enormous now. Thor weighs nearly 200 pounds, the female's not much smaller. They could kill him with a single swipe if they chose. But they don't. They trust him absolutely, as their mother did. James thinks about the journey that led here. The trap that caught a young lioness 2 decades ago. His choice to save her rather than take the easier path. The years that passed. The cancer that doomed her. Her impossible trek to his doorstep. Every choice, every moment, led to this. "Your mama was right," he tells the lion softly. "We were meant to be together. You were meant to be here." Thor lifts his massive head and chuffs, the lion greeting that Sahara used to make. The sound is so similar that James's breath catches. It's like she's still here, speaking through her son. The other cubs join in, a chorus of chuffs and purrs. They pile closer, their combined weight pinning James to the ground, their rough tongues grooming his hair and beard with affectionate enthusiasm. A family. Unconventional, impossible, but real. As darkness falls and stars emerge in the vast Montana sky, James Morrison lies surrounded by 4 lions who chose to trust him, who chose to love him, because 20 years ago he showed mercy to their mother. The circle is complete. But Sahara's gift has one final surprise in store, one that will reveal itself in the most unexpected way possible. Phase 7, Denouement and Final Gift, 60:00-65:00. 1 year after Sahara's death, James stands at the sanctuary entrance, watching as a van pulls up the long driveway. It's early morning, the air crisp with the promise of autumn. The cubs, no longer cubs, but adolescent lions in their full glory, lounge in their enclosure, basking in the weak sunlight. The van door opens, and a woman in her 70s emerges, moving slowly, carefully. She's accompanied by a younger woman, her daughter, James assumes. They're here for a tour, like hundreds of others this past year. But as they approach, something about the older woman's face strikes James as familiar. There's something in her eyes, in the way she moves, that triggers a memory he can't quite place. "Mr. Morrison," the younger woman says. "I'm Sarah Chun. This is my mother, Dr. Margaret Chun. She was She knew Sahara. A long time ago. James's heart skips. Dr. Chun. The name from the sanctuary records. The veterinarian who treated Sahara 20 years ago, who found James's information in her files, who helped connect the dots that led to Sahara's final journey. Dr. Chun, James says, shaking her hand. It's fragile in his, marked by age and arthritis. Thank you for coming. Thank you for everything you did. Dr. Chin's eyes fill with tears. I need to see them. The cubs. I need to know that what we did, letting her go, helping her escape, that it was the right choice. James leads them to the enclosure. The lions are immediately alert, curious about the newcomers. Thor approaches first, his massive body moving with fluid grace. He stops at the fence, studying Dr. Chun with intelligent amber eyes. Eyes exactly like his mother's. Dr. Chun gasps, her hand going to her mouth. Oh my God. He looks just like her. The eyes, the bearing. He has her courage too, James says softly. They all carry pieces of her. Thor has her bravery. Grace has her intelligence. Luna has her gentleness. And Hope. He points to the smallest lion, who's climbing a tree with reckless abandon. Hope has her determination, her refusal to give up. They watch the lions for a long while in silence. Finally, Dr. Chin speaks. I've been haunted this whole year, wondering if we did the right thing. We knew she was dying. We knew the journey might kill her. But she was so determined, so absolutely focused on reaching you. It seemed cruel to deny her that final mission. You gave her purpose, James says. You gave her a way to secure her cub's future. That's not cruelty. That's compassion. But the risk. She made it. That's what matters. She got them here safely. She had weeks with them, teaching them, loving them. She died knowing they'd be cared for. You gave her that gift. Dr. Chin wipes her eyes. May I tell you something? Something I've never told anyone. James nods. The day Sahara gave birth, she was in distress. The labor was going wrong. We had to do an emergency intervention. I was the attending veterinarian. And during the procedure, when she was sedated and vulnerable, she was still fighting, still trying to stay conscious. I've seen hundreds of births, Mr. Morrison. I've never seen a mother fight that hard to remain aware. She pauses, watching Hope execute a spectacular leap between tree branches. And as I worked, as I helped bring her cubs into the world, she turned her head and looked at me. Despite the sedation, despite the pain, she looked right at me. And I swear on everything I hold sacred, she was asking me something, pleading with me, to help her get to me. James finishes. Yes, I couldn't explain it then, couldn't rationalize it, but I knew. And when I found your records, when I learned what you'd done for her 20 years ago, I understood. She'd been planning this from the moment she realized she was pregnant and dying. She knew she had to get her babies to you. James feels his throat tighten. That's a hell of a gift to give someone. That level of trust. It's a debt, Dr. Chun says quietly. A debt I can never repay. She trusted me to help her reach you. And I did. But then I sent her into a blizzard. I let her walk 500 miles while dying. I carry that weight every day. James turns to face her fully. Dr. Chun, look at them. Look at Thor, Grace, Luna, and Hope. They're alive. They're thriving. They're happy. That's because of what you did. That's because you honored Sahara's choice instead of imposing your own judgment. You gave her agency, even in death. That's not something to feel guilty about. That's something to be proud of. Dr. Chun breaks down then, sobbing quietly. Her daughter puts an arm around her shoulders. They stand together, three humans watching four magnificent lions, all connected by one extraordinary mother's final act of love. After a while, Dr. Chun composes herself. There's something else, she says. Something I brought to show you. She reaches into her bag and pulls out a tablet. On it is a video, date stamped from the night before Sahara began her journey north. We installed cameras in her enclosure to monitor her condition. This was recorded at 2 a.m. the night before she left. Watch. She presses play. The video shows Sahara in her enclosure, her four tiny cubs nursing. She's thin, clearly unwell, but focused on her babies with absolute attention. She grooms each one carefully, methodically. Then she does something remarkable. She stands, walks to the enclosure gate, and deliberately manipulates the latch with her paw. Once, twice, 3 times, teaching herself how to open it. She planned her escape. James breathes. More than that. Watch what happens next. In the video, Sahara returns to her cubs. She picks up Thor by the scruff and carries him to her back. Then Grace. Then Luna. Then Hope. She positions all 4 cubs carefully, making sure they can cling to her fur, that they're secure. She's practicing, preparing for the journey ahead. Then she lies down, wraps her body around her cubs, and sleeps. But her position is deliberate. She's facing north. Always north. Toward Montana. Toward James. The video ends. James can't speak. The level of intelligence, of planning, of determined maternal devotion is staggering. Sahara didn't just escape on impulse. She prepared. She trained herself. She made sure her cubs could survive the journey before she attempted it. I wanted you to see this, Dr. Chin says. I wanted you to understand the full measure of what she did. This wasn't instinct or desperation. This was choice. Conscious, deliberate choice. She chose you, Mr. Morrison. Out of every option available, she chose to trust you with the most precious things in her world. As if responding to some unheard cue, all 4 lions approach the fence where the humans stand. They line up, Thor, Grace, Luna, Hope, and they chuff in unison. The sound is identical to the greeting Sahara used to make. Dr. Chin gasps. They're saying hello. Like she used to. They remember her, James says. I show them videos. I tell them stories. I make sure they know where they came from, who their mother was, what she did for them. They know. Hope, always the boldest, presses against the fence and extends one massive paw through the gap. Not threatening. Offering. It's the same gesture Sahara made that first night. Reaching out, asking for help, offering trust. Without thinking, James places his hand against Hope's paw. The lioness pushes back gently, maintaining contact. Thank you, she seems to say. Thank you for honoring our mother's trust. Dr. Chun and her daughter leave an hour later, but not before making a substantial donation to the sanctuary and promising to return. As their van disappears down the driveway, James returns to the enclosure. The lions surround him immediately, their usual greeting ritual. But today feels different. Thor butts his head against James's shoulder with unusual force, emphasis, insistence. Grace brings him a toy, dropping it at his feet, waiting expectantly. Luna grooms his hair with particular attention, and Hope climbs into his lap, all 250 pounds of her, and purrs like a small engine. They're telling him something, reassuring him, reminding him that they're here, they're his, their family. James sits there, covered in lions, and understands the final gift Sahara gave him. Not just her cubs, not just the responsibility of their care. She gave him back his purpose, his connection to the work he loved, his reason for getting up every morning. She gave him a family. 15 years ago, he came to this cabin to escape the pain of caring, the burden of constant loss that comes with veterinary medicine. He isolated himself, convinced that distance was the only protection from heartbreak. But Sahara remembered who he was before the grief. She remembered the man who spent 6 hours in surgery saving a trapped lioness because he believed every life had value. She remembered the gentleness, the dedication, the love he poured into his work. And she brought her cubs to him because she knew, somehow, impossibly, she knew, that caring for them would heal something broken inside him. She was right. As the sun sets on this anniversary of her death, James makes a silent promise to her memory. I'll never forget, he tells the sky, tells the spirit of the lioness who trusted him beyond reason. I'll tell your story for as long as I live. I'll make sure the world knows about your courage, your love, your impossible journey. And I'll raise your babies to be as brave and devoted and magnificent as you were. Thor roars, the first full adult roar he's produced. The sound echoes across the Montana wilderness, powerful and primal. The other lions join in, a chorus of roars that speaks of life, of strength, of continuity. Somewhere, James likes to think, Sahara hears them, and she knows her cubs are exactly where they belong. If you're watching this, You've just witnessed one of the most extraordinary stories of trust and maternal devotion ever documented. Sahara walked 500 miles while dying, through impossible terrain and a blizzard that should have killed her, to place her 4 cubs with the one human she trusted. James Morrison continues to run the Sahara Sanctuary, dedicated to her memory. Thor, Grace, Luna, and Hope are now 4 years old. Magnificent adults who still greet James every morning with purrs and head butts and absolute trust. The sanctuary has become a model for ethical wildlife care, showing that the bonds between humans and animals can be profound, transformative, and built on mutual respect and compassion. Sahara's story reminds us that kindness creates ripples that extend far beyond the initial act. James's choice to save a trapped lioness 20 years ago came back to him in the form of 4 cubs who needed exactly what he needed: a family, a purpose, a reason to open his heart again to both the joy and pain of caring deeply. If this story moved you, consider supporting wildlife rehabilitation organizations. Consider showing mercy to an animal in need. Consider remembering that every act of compassion has the potential to echo across years and miles in ways we can never predict. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you, Sahara, for reminding us all what courage looks like.